Hello everyone, and welcome to the House 2.0. Today's date is May 24th, 2020. It is a beautiful Sunday. Today, in the world of live sports and entertainment, we are currently halfway through the match, a celebrity game of golf between Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, accompanied by NFL legends Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. But of course, this program is here to talk about other sports, and while we don't have much NBA going on, we still have the wonderful wide world of professional wrestling, one of the main topics of our program here. Let's kick it right off. We'll be covering today the week of May 18th, 2020 in the world of professional wrestling, as well as yesterday's AEW pay-per-view Double or Nothing, the second annual pay-per-view. This is kind of their SummerSlam, with All In definitely being their WrestleMania-esque main event pay-per-view. Double or Nothing was great, but of course, let's start off with the beginning of the week, Monday Night Raw, May 18th, 2020, emanating from the WWE Performance Center in front of a live crowd of just Byron Saxton, Corey Graves, and whoever else they had in the building that day. Overall, I thought this was a pretty okay Monday Night Raw. As far as the Raws have been going since the pandemic started, there's a lack of energy that you'll notice from the overall broadcast, but I feel like a lot of the superstars, especially those who don't usually get as much ring time, have really been taking it on the chin. They're trying to work their gimmicks. They're trying to work their promos on a higher level, a more personal level. Let's start off with the opening segment. Randy Orton and Edge. Edge accepting Randy Orton's challenge to a straight wrestling match. Overall, this segment was pretty good. I think Edge is becoming one of the top promos in the company, if he wasn't already one of the best promos in WWE history. His emotions are really candid. You can feel that venom, that fire coming from a lot of real places. He talks about, among other things, Randy Orton's Intercontinental title match against him in 2004. He says something along the lines of that this was the career that Randy didn't want but was handed. I thought overall the segment had a lot of really good notes, but to me some of the booking is really questionable. I don't like this idea that this is being called by some, as Charlie was saying, one of the greatest wrestling matches, if not the greatest wrestling match ever. It definitely is supported by some of the history. Edge is a, multiple-time world champion. Randy's, I believe, a 12-time or 14-time world champion. The resumes match, but if we're looking at how their history of work against each other has gone, it's hard to sell that to people who know better, and you would think that the WWE is trying to market towards people who do know better. That's the people who stayed with them through the pandemic of lowered ratings, lowered retention, but overall, this wasn't a bad segment. I like how Randy was able to incorporate fear, doubt, grit, and passion, and then Edge comes out with his Get Grit shirt. I like a lot of notes of Edge's promo and how emphatic the yes was to Orton's challenge. Although I am concerned with the quality of the match, the build is still really good. Edge can sell a program. Randy's really good at getting over that heel character. Overall, it was a good segment. We then move on to Seth and a recap of what happened last week. Seth trying to gouge Rey Mysterio's eye out with the steel steps. Overall, I don't really care for how the Seth character is developing, but I like a lot of stuff around it. As we'll see later on in the show, he has successfully recruited Austin Theory into his little gang of Monday Night Messiah shenanigans. We can see some early tension brewing between Austin and Buddy, or maybe Seth and Buddy. He's kind of getting left out. Austin Theory is now the new apple to Seth's eye. Overall, this segment wasn't terrible, but it's really hard to get invested in this knowing that the Seth character is getting so flat and so unemotive. Getting more out of Buddy Murphy might be a good idea right now, but I just wish there was more with Seth. We got a match between Buddy and Humberto Carrillo. That was kind of short, led to a bit of a brawl between Buddy and Aleister Black. Of course, Seth goes running. We then move on to Baron Corbin. Baron had a good promo, and his match against Drew McIntyre later on ended up being pretty okay. I liked kind of how he's still playing the King character even after Money in the Bank. I think the longer they go with characters like that, especially when they're working so well generating that heel heat, is better. I like how he was yelling about no one holding the door open for him, all that. Very cute, very fun. It was also short, which I think is important for some of those promo segments. Not everything has to be that, one-on-one type thing. It was very much out of a standard Monday Night Raw. It fit in perfectly with the match against Drew. It was fine. The whole brand-to-brand invitational thing, I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like every time they do a brand split, it goes one way or the other. It's very hit and miss between whoever they're booking. Either way, it's perfectly fine. Next, we get a Liv Morgan promo. She talks about her mom, how she never gives up, and she says that that's what she learned. She doesn't give up either. Her match against Charlotte taught her that she never wants to give up and she wants to be Raw Women's Champion. And then we immediately go into a Charlotte promo about how she's better than everyone. We don't even see Liv Morgan, so it all feels kind of for naught there. The match against Ruby was a quick squash and didn't lead to much else. It definitely just felt like they were putting Charlotte on TV to keep her on all three shows. We'd actually see later on in the week that Charlotte would face off against Bayley, the SmackDown Women's Champion, and lose that match. So I see that they're trying to give her as much 50-50 booking as possible if they're keeping her on all the shows, but the damage with that is I don't want to keep seeing the same people over and over again, especially if the character's not getting advanced. Charlotte says she's the best, she's the face, etc., etc. She even comments to Bayley that there's levels to being a champion. And of course, like I said, the match against Ruby Riott wasn't much either way. She gets her with the figure eight pretty quickly, and then we go straight backstage. Moving on, we finally see Bobby Lashley and MVP for the first time in today's program. We see that Bobby Lashley, and specifically MVP as his escort, his manager, is getting a lot more TV time. We did get a small glimpse of Lana today, but we haven't been getting that as much throughout this feud. To me, that's a bit of a weak point because she's not a compelling promo per se, but she is someone that the audience engages with on a high level. Even if it's go away heat, I think that the heat is still there, as opposed to MVP, who's kind of in the middle and for me isn't as engaging of a character right now. Bobby tries to do his interview with Charlie. MVP comes out, says Bobby is too busy dealing with clowns like R-Truth and that beautiful wife of his. He then petitions Lashley to team with him and contend for the championship. He comments, when is he going to let Bobby Lashley free? We get Asuka's celebration for becoming the new Raw Women's Champion. We see balloons everywhere. Kairi Sane's out there with her. She's yelling a bunch of intangible and nonsensical Japanese. These segments are great, no matter how you slice it. I really like how compelling this Asuka character is. I like Kairi Sane as a complement to that. I wish she was getting more wrestling time, but she was used effectively in this show, as we see Asuka's little storyline for the show is that she's not backing down from any challengers. Nia Jax comes out, tries to interrupt the whole thing. Asuka kicks her out of the ring. Nia tries to get back at her by getting at Kairi Sane. Mama Asuka's not having any of that. Runs, hunts down Nia Jax, just beats the hell out of her, and then leaves her for dead for the rest of the show. I thought it was a beautifully concise set of promos and videos. It really portrayed that Asuka's back on that main event, top champion tier. It was really convincing to establish her as a strong champion for a strong challenger in Nia Jax. And I thought Nia was really good on this show too. I think that the last 12 months for Nia has been really good. I can't speak to how safe she's been or if she's improved a whole hell of a lot in the ring, but I think that as far as her promo work goes, her facial expressions, how she emotes alongside other people, she's been doing a really good job. And of course, we got the Kairi Sane Fluke solo, which I was a very big fan of. Next up, Charlie talks to Corbin. Not much there. We see Drew is watching the show. Of course, we have to get those obligatory guy looking at the monitor that's showing the show that we're all watching. Next up, we talk to R-Truth. R-Truth is always saying the dumbest stuff in these segments. He calls Rob Gronkowski Tom Brady. He tells Lashley, who comes out to try and fight him, are you going to Debo me? I thought he was saying, are you going to Delo me? But I'm not entirely sure what he means by are you going to Debo me. That was lost on me. Is he Deboing me? I'm not sure. R-Truth then morphs into this pretty Ricky character against Lashley. I do like seeing R-Truth, but I'm not sure how I feel about these segments. He's looking really dumb on a lot of them. We're at like the halfway point here in the show, and it just feels like such a weird spot to have R-Truth in. I know that we're trying to elevate Lashley's character and MVP's character by them dismissing the silly antics of R-Truth, but it feels like it should be R-Truth and other people, not just Bobby Lashley picking on R-Truth and bullying him. Good for heel heat, but it doesn't feel as entertaining or as attention-grabbing if it's just one adversary he has. Some mix-up of other people. I know they had Leon Ruff out there doing jobs for Aleister Black. Maybe getting him involved too would have been good. Getting anybody else involved would have been fine. But either way, it was funny for the sake of R-Truth, but they're not the best segments. The Women's Tag Team Championships. I think Iconics are always really, really funny. I see a lot of love for them online. Although I do see some people saying they're annoying, the whole Aussie accent thing isn't that great. I was legitimately very excited for this match. Alexa and Nikki work really well. I think that they're some of the best wrestlers in the company right now. And the Iconics aren't particularly bad either. Their mic work's definitely stronger than their in-ring work, but they can hang with people who are better than them. They sell well. I think they work their gimmick well into the actual wrestling, the whole whiny, difficult kind of thing they're going for. Fast moves here. They tried to get to the finish really quick, which was Peyton getting DQ'd for beating up Alexa too long. We then see them get into a fight backstage, and then they cry and kiss and make up afterward. Overall, Iconics were really good this week, and of course Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, you can't go too wrong with them. I'm really hoping that we get a long tag team title reign with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. I think Nikki Cross is one of the more underrated wrestlers in WWE right now. Her character is good. She works the gimmick really consistently, and we can see her go very well in between, like completely crazy off her rocker, kind of bouncing off Alexa, and more into her own, focusing on the wrestling, actually wrestling in matches, acting like a person, using her brain. And the whole match itself worked on that level too. We saw Alexa get her heat back, and then we saw Nikki get some of her heat back as some of the, four-way brawl kind of dissipated in the middle of the match. And the finish was kind of rough, but I think it works if they're going to keep going with the Iconics having some tension. I don't think they should break up. I think that would be a huge mistake. We've seen the New Day talk about this on some level, especially Biggie Langston on a podcast here and there. These tags breaking up can always be really toxic to anybody's push. You see people start to get de-pushed, and those singles runs don't work out, and I would worry about that for Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. They're so good together, and their energy is so good together. Seeing them feud would not do either character justice, and having that complementary character in front of each other, they're so identical that it just works. It works better as a sum rather than the individual parts themselves. Shayna Baszler comes out. She has a quick match against Natty. She taps her out in the Kirifuda clutch. Natty tears apart the KO show set, which is a light spoiler as we're getting Kevin Owens back. The match was kind of whatever. Real short, nothing match. As far as the WWE matches we've been getting a lot the last few weeks, they're definitely on the shorter side unless you're a main event player, but this served its purpose. Natty got frustrated at a frustrating finish. She tried to go for a few moves, but got pretty well bulldozed by Shayna Baszler, and it was a submission match, so that's kind of fun too. We then get an episode of the KO show featuring Kevin Owens, of course, Zelina Vega, Andrade, Angel Garza, and Austin Theory. Overall, pretty whatever segment. Kevin's always a lot of fun, but the quartet of Zelina's crew has started to wear a little thin on audiences, and myself included. I think their work themselves have been good, but it's the lack of diversity in who they're talking to. I don't know how many people WWE has available to them, but it's hard to sell guys like Angel Garza, Austin Theory, even right now Andrade, even though Andrade has a bright future and people are high on him. Their amount of TV time to how ready and well executed I think it's been, they're differing. I think that they're great, but I don't know if I'm as interested in seeing them this often on television. Kevin Owens dealt with all their nonsense and eventually bought out Apollo Crews, who blindsided Andrade, and this leads to a tag team match. Kevin Owens and Apollo Crews versus Andrade and Angel Garza. We get set up for that turn against Austin Theory later. Andrade, obviously having the most problems with Austin. He's always butting heads with him in those backstage segments with Zelina Vega. He's left out of the tag picture here in this match. Crews looked really strong in this. He looked really, really good in this. And so did Kevin. He didn't get to work too much, but he looked good as well. We get set up for the turn with Zelina setting up a distraction, but Austin Theory messes it up. He hits Angel Garza instead of Crews. Crews gets the powerbomb. They win. Like I said, it's been hard to stay invested in these characters, even though I'm fully acknowledging that they're good workers. These guys are, definitely above average as far as the wrestling scene goes, but as main event talent, as who we're centering most of the focus on in the show, it's a bit hard to fully invest myself in guys like Angel, guys like Austin, really just hoping they can make it work long term and put more into these characters than the little bits and flakes that we've been getting sprinkled in those backstage segments. Of course, during Murphy and Aleister Black, we get the full recruitment of Austin Theory. See, we get part of something I would like to see, which is Seth weaponizing Murphy and Austin, but the lack of talking that we're getting from them, the lack of engagement we're getting out of their characters is sullying the whole thing. I would like to see more mic time for a guy like Austin Theory. What is his feelings after getting betrayed like that? What are his feelings finding solace in someone like Seth Rollins? How does he feel aligning himself with someone of Murphy's status? And what are his feelings now seeing that Zelina is going to be perfectly fine without him? And what is his motivation now to keep going after something like a title or something like notoriety and fame? Are his motivations different now? We need to explore that more in his character next week, tomorrow. And if we don't, a lot of this is for waste. Then we're just adding guys onto this running list of people that Seth recruits, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Throughout the show, I'll bring it up now since we're heading to the end of the show, we're seeing the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits in their axe throwing contest. We see them approach the Viking Raiders in a random park. I am not sure exactly where this is supposed to be, but obviously social distancing isn't being enforced, as we see 15 Vikings with the Viking Raiders. They comment that they have indeed provided the smoke as they reveal a fire in the middle of the park. And the whole segment was really silly, but in a really endearing way. I like this a lot. I also like the cop needing to mention that Ivor's cute, but Eric isn't. Montez Ford had the best facial expressions. This was great for what it was. It took up a lot of time in the show, and it really saved the show during some of those weaker points between the whole Zelina Vega quartet storyline and some of the Seth Rollins stuff, but it was good. It was good. And it was a nice treat leading into our main event. WWE Champion Drew McIntyre versus King Corbin from SmackDown. As we are learning, this brand invitational rule means a superstar can jump brands 4 times a year. We're not explained a lot of these rules, and I have a funny feeling most of them won't matter because they're probably not going to enforce this 2 months from now. Bobby Lashley and MVP come out before the main event. They say a bunch of stuff. Then Drew and Baron wrestle a bunch. And then, who cares? Baron makes a comeback. Then he gets back in the ring and completely lets it go to waste. Then McIntyre gets his entire comeback done in like a quarter of the time that King Corbin did. He hits a big belly to belly. He kips up. He hits his move. And the show ends. Overall, this episode of Raw was just kind of whatever. Not a huge fan of some of the stuff, even if it was okay. I like Asuka, but that's not enough to save the general lack of energy that's been happening with these shows. I like Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, and I even like this segment, but having it spliced in throughout the show didn't do much to elevate it as it did to just keep my attention. 3 hours is a lot of TV to produce, and I'm not even going to say it's not hard. That's never something I'm going to say on the show, but it's a big ask to have me be invested in a lot of characters who aren't as well established yet, and the characters that are helping establish them aren't doing enough to put them over. Seth's over. Seth's completely made. But he's not doing a lot, in my mind, to make me hone in on the Murphy character, to hone in on the Austin Theory character, to hone in on characters that he has accessory exposure to, like a Kevin Owens, like an Aleister Black, like a Rey Mysterio. And obviously Rey's made himself too, but all of this stuff is happening around their main event players. And it just feels very flat. It doesn't feel very engaging. Bobby Lashley and MVP, I know some people are really into that storyline, but like I said, the lack of engagement we're getting from Lana, an established character in the storyline, and the lack of energy coming out of it just doesn't have me feeling the same way. I like MVP. I don't like this program. So my final rating for this Raw is a 3 out of 10. I liked a lot of stuff on the show, but as a show, as a cohesive unit of a show, it failed on a lot of fronts for me. It didn't capture my attention much past me watching it just to kind of put the review together. I found myself really hugging the notes, trying to follow the beats. It's not a great sign when you can feel certain things coming in a show, and I feel like Raw is really in that space right now. Would definitely like to see more happen storyline-wise this week, but I'm not too optimistic. Next up, NXT, May 20th. We move into the Wednesday Night Wars. I'll be giving out of 10 ratings for every show that I talk about. And this isn't more of a what was the best show, what was the worst show, but I feel like out of 10 is something easier for people to follow. It's something that we can track over time. And it's a simple rating. A 1 out of 10, garbage show. A 5 out of 10, an okay show. And a 10 out of 10 is a good show. So good show on a lot of levels. Could even say it's a great show. On TV, it's hard to get that perfect show, but we'll see. NXT, May 20th. We opened the show with Karrion Kross's entrance. The match was good. The entrance was better. This mostly leads up to a Tommaso Ciampa promo. He comes out to confront Karrion. Talks a lot about Karrion not being real. Tells him he has a killer entrance, but he might not be a killer himself. And then he lays it out. Tommaso Ciampa wants Karrion Kross at NXT TakeOver in your house in June. He says, welcome to the main event. And then he leaves. Very quick promo. Very quick segment. This was good. Nothing special. Nothing great. But it served its purpose. And it lets us know this is a big match to look forward to in a couple weeks. We then get a quick promo for Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. And we get a big promo video for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship Tournament. We see Drake Maverick. We see Phantasma, Akira Tozawa. We see Jake Atlas. It's into our first Cruiserweight group match. These matches are kind of booked to us as the last of the group phase. They will set up the tournament final for next week. El Hijo de Fantasma versus Akira Tozawa. First up, I think Akira's music is really bad. It's not chopsticks, which I appreciate, but it's bad. It's very horns blaring, just kind of whatever everybody else on an NXT show has. Not the biggest fan. To the match, though, lots of mat wrestling. The test of strength was really nice. They get through all their spots in a pretty timely fashion. Phantasma has a nice dive to the outside. He hits his Phantom Driver, gets the win. So he moves on in Group B, and he will be in the final for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. Overall, good match. It's hard to get good, entertaining matches when you're only working 2 to 5 minutes, but this was good. They hit their moves. They got in and out of there. Both guys sold really well. Tozawa has these just gut-wrenching screams when he gets put in a submission hold. And the whole thing served its purpose pretty well. We get a quick recap of last week's angle between Matt Riddle and Thatcher. I thought this was really good. Thatcher's promo and Riddle's promo were both excellent. Thatcher lays down the challenge. Riddle mentions the time, presumably the place. Next week, cage match. Thatcher's claiming pinfalls don't count, no fluke pins, either knockout or tap out. Riddle says, I'll see you in our hometown, a cage. This got elevated even higher later on in the week when they announced Kurt Angle would be the special guest referee. This is what you book on TV when viewership is down. You give people incentive to watch. I am definitely not going to miss this match. This is what we need right now. Compelling mid-card matches, stuff that's going to incentivize us to sit down and watch the show. When you're working main event feuds, it's driven by the promos, it's driven by the motivation. But when you're working in the mid-card, you have to focus on what you're establishing as the content during the show. This match has the capacity to go 20, 25, 30 minutes. A bunch of high spots. A Kurt Angle slam. Next up, Shotzi Blackheart. She had a nice video package. She had the Abbott tank. She says she's balls to the wall. Who's your daddy? She's your daddy. She talks about the TCB written on the tank. Taking care of business. Tanks are indestructible and they forge her own path. Just like how she sees herself. She mentions a bunch of really cool stuff about her past. Her dad was a cool biker dude. She was exposed to punk and to rock. She talks about getting into wrestling. She calls wrestling badass. She says she feels invincible in the ring. All of these are great notes. It makes wrestling feel exciting. It's something that newer people can reach out to and say, this is what I feel about wrestling too. It's not all about being tough and macho. It's about empowerment. It's about channeling a character and channeling a positive energy. The whole character is getting set up really well, and I'd like to see her get a really strong feud. She mentions a lot of names in the promo, like Candice LeRae, like, Dakota Kai, like Chelsea Green, Raquel Gonzalez. But I really honed in on her calling out Raquel Gonzalez because I feel like that could be a really good feud for her coming up. I don't know how they could facilitate keeping both of them strong, but I think a long feud with Shotzi coming out on top could really do a lot for the character. It could really play into the tomboy badass thing. And it could establish her as a role model for a lot of younger viewers. And I see a lot of really good babyface energy in her. So this opening package was good. I think it's a great introduction to the character on a larger scale. And I'd like to see more come out of this. Overall, good segment. Mia Yim versus Santana Garrett. Mia Yim's entrance music, not great. Like I said, not a lot of great music on this show. Santana's isn't great either. Moving on, we get a quick win by Mia Yim. This is just to set up Gargano and Candice LeRae coming out to cut a heel promo. Gargano is doing his best heel mic work recently. He's just chanting Mia's name. Candice is just coming out, talking like a big old bag of garbage. She says, "You dropped the ball." And then we get Johnny in the back saying, "Dropped it like it's hot." Candice says, "I would have thrived for a title opportunity." And Johnny yells in the back, "She would have thrived!" Johnny does some great mic work here. They try to ambush Mia. Of course, somebody has to come out and be the equalizer. We can't have a babyface like Mia getting beat down too hard. Keith Lee comes out as the equalizer, runs out Johnny and Candice, and it looks like we're going to get set up for Johnny Gargano versus Keith Lee at NXT TakeOver in Your House. We will hear a little more from Keith Lee later, but for now, we get a flashback to last week. Cameron Grimes versus Finn Balor. Now, I don't really know who Cameron Grimes is, but apparently he beat former Universal Champion Finn Balor in a regular TV match. Cameron talks about it being grime time and is very excited to have beat a guy like Finn Balor. We come back from commercial from this insipid Cameron Grimes promo, and we go to Drake Maverick. Drake, he's cutting the best promos of his life right now. He says he's tired of doubting himself. He's tired of the second guessing. He's tired of the pep talks. And he's tired of the TED Talks. He calls Kushida the best wrestler in the world. And the last time he checked, Drake, was not Bret Hart. He perfectly sells Kushida as not just an above average, but a superior opponent. But acknowledges that he's got to give it his all and try to win this match. The promo sets up the stakes perfectly. If Drake doesn't win this match, his WWE career is over. But he knows he has to go out there. He's screaming and yelling at us for the last couple weeks. He's not finished. He will not go home. He will not lose this tournament. And he will win this title. And he goes out there with a full head of steam. And commentary puts over the urgency of this match really well. I think that they talk about Drake's stakes with as much urgency, with as much direness. And overall, this has been one of the best handled feuds on television. It's Drake Maverick not versus these cruiserweights, but it's Drake Maverick versus losing his job. It's something that people can relate to in such a tumultuous time. And it has a lot of positive notes to it because of how real Drake is playing this character. Up next, a match. Roderick Strong of the Undisputed Era versus Dexter Lumis, the psychopath serial killer who will not stop staring at people. From Recluse, Wyoming. Waking up from a cold sweat means Dexter had a good night's sleep. Excellent line by Morrow. They try to go for some takedown attempts in the beginning of this match. I thought the whole angle was kind of nice. I am not a huge fan of Dexter's wrestling in general, but I thought that he hit some good moves, some big moves really well. Beth Phoenix asks if Dexter can even feel pain. I really liked how commentary was trying to put Dexter over. His selling is a bit, hit and miss, but he is consistent in only lightly selling everything. He's trying to establish that he's big and strong, but he can still get worked against, and he's still going to put on for the guy that he's in the ring with. Dexter's running Bulldog wasn't bad. I know people have a problem with how a lot of Bulldogs look. His wasn't bad. Huge angle slam by Roderick Strong. This was a good match. I liked this match. I definitely admit Dexter wasn't great, but I liked the match. I liked how Dexter worked in this match. We get a sit-out pin by Roderick Strong to steal it, but Dexter Lumis doesn't finish with him as he puts Strong into a sleeper hold, chokes him out. Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly try to come out and save their boy. Lumis is not moving a muscle. He is keeping the sleeper hold firmly locked in on Roderick Strong. And who comes out but Adam Cole's thorn in his side, Velveteen Dream. Hits a dive on Cole to the outside. They stand tall with a good chunk of the Undisputed Era just lying in their wake. It was a good segment. Akira Tozawa getting attacked by Luchas. I don't know what this is leading up to, but I really don't care. It's just a bunch of weird stuff with these Luchas and these SUVs, man. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand it. We get a tag match between Oney Larkin and Danny Burch versus Everrise. I don't know who Everrise are, but they were definitely in the match. And Oni and Danny definitely won this match. So nice quick match there for us. Sprinkle in an extra little couple minutes of wrestling. We then get Keith Lee backstage. He is sick of Johnny. He does not like Johnny. He also comments, who the hell records themselves having dinner? Commenting on last week's segment where we got to sit in on the Lorray Gargano summit of hating everyone on the roster. Nice line here. We then, of course, get Riddle answering Thatcher's challenge. You're not a stallion, you're a putz. Only Matt Riddle could make that sound as badass while being funny as that. Excellent work. This Matt Riddle Thatcher match, obviously, very excited about it. We then move on to our last Cruiserweight entrance match, Kushida versus Drake Maverick. This was match of the night. This thing went on the perfect amount of time. We have so much story built around Drake Maverick's grit, his fire, the reasons he wants to win this tournament. It's not just a championship for him, it's his whole job. And we start this match off hot. Kushida's working Drake hard. He is trying to beat him down, especially his left arm. We see a lot of holds targeting this left arm. Arm bars, breakers. We see an inverted, like a Kimura lock looking type thing that he goes for. Even as we go to break, we see Drake getting a bit of a comeback, but the arm's still damaged. Drake gets a near fall and gets this huge kick to the left arm. The match is progressing really, really smoothly. And we see Drake get more and more desperate to stay in this match. Kushida throws Drake to the outside, working the arm. And Kushida's giving us a really nice diversity of offense. Stomps, holds, tossing to the barricade, tossing to the post, dropping him on the apron. Really good stuff. Kushida goes for a huge arm drag. He looked like he was trying to run up the turnbuckle and twist out of it. But Drake reverses it. Kushida finds the armbar right after the reversal, but Drake rolls him up, gets the pin. Drake wins. William Regal informs Byron Saxton that we are going to get a triple threat match next week between Kushida, Drake Maverick, and Jake Atlas to break this three-way tie at 2-1 in Group A. An amazing continuation to Drake's journey here. We're finally going to see him in do-or-die territory. This is truly his last chance at this title match. If he can win the triple threat, he goes on to face Phantasma. If he can't, it's over. He's done. Overall, really good match here. I love that we're leading up to this triple threat here. This is definitely the high point of the show. Now we can talk about this Damian Priest promo. It's very much meat and potatoes. I want to fight you, Finn Balor, and I don't like you, Finn Balor. He quotes, Finn Balor is returning to NXT. He wants to be a champion, and championships will come. But because Finn Balor is returning to NXT, that's a possible target that has turned into an opportunity. Balor put NXT on the map, and that's why Damian wants a piece at TakeOver in your house. I watched this promo twice, and I will say this. The first time I saw the promo, it was good. It was entertaining, at the very least, because, I like Finn Balor. Damian Priest does good ring work, and it's exciting to see that the two of them will be facing off, but the second time around, it just really comes to the front how just bland this was. He's not changing his face. He has no inflection on any words he's saying here. He's making emphasis, but no inflection. And lastly on the show, we have Io Shirai versus Rhea Ripley. The setup for this match is perfectly sensible. The last challenger for the championship, Io, versus the last champion, Rhea Ripley. It's a shame to see Io Shirai come out with nobody in the crowd, but this is supposed to be a really exciting match. Rhea's good in the ring. Io's super good in the ring. What I noticed most of all in this match is that this Rhea character, I find that the edge she had, that spark that we were getting out of her closer to Rumble time, going into Elimination Chamber, she felt a lot deadlier, a lot meaner. And since the loss to Charlotte at Mania, just the way she comes out, her stance, her footing, the way she talks, the way she stares people down, I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's a product of the booking, or if it's her actual body language in general, but everything feels a step down for me. It's such a big toll onto her reputation, onto the bill that she was getting, for her to lose that match against Charlotte. I do fear there's a lot of damage that WWE might have done to her character having lost that match, but hopefully I'm just looking into this too much. Hopefully that's an exaggeration. Either way, it was something I couldn't really get past in this match, especially leading up to the finish. They work a high rate here. Io and Ripley are trying to throw each other around the best they can. Io rolls out of a press, double leg stomp to Rhea's chest, like that. Before that, Rhea puts Io into a fireman's carry, wiggles out of it. Io finds a crossface. Rhea stands out of it and kind of pushes her into the corner. Rhea sets up on the top rope, gets the superplex. These girls are working hard. But of course, Charlotte has to come out. We need more Charlotte. All the shows lack Charlotte, apparently. And the moment she comes out, you know exactly what's coming. Either she's going to break out a table or another kendo stick and just start wailing on everybody. For some reason, between Io Shirai and how crazy she can be, and Rhea Ripley and how just generally stupid she's looking, one of them is going to try and get in her way. We get a nice surprise as neither of those things happen. Io Hurricane Rana's Rhea into Charlotte's face. Somehow, it looks weird. By the time that Charlotte gets back up, they're trying to continue the match, and Charlotte just breaks the whole thing up. She beats Io down, then she beats Rhea Ripley down, and the show closes with Charlotte Flair, who has not been on this program all 2 hours, standing tall over the two of the most over rising stars on NXT. If that didn't happen tonight, I would give this show like a 6, maybe a 7. For that, I'm definitely going to drop NXT down to a 5. Lots of good stuff this week. Lots of nice matches, concise wrestling, but that one segment really rubbed me the wrong way, especially coming off of such a flat, boring promo by Damian Priest. This is almost the Raw problem in reverse. You should pride your established characters, but not in a way that buries your mid-card talent. Like with Raw, you're giving the mid-card talent main event time that they may not be ready for, and you're not giving them the mic time to support it. And then you look at NXT where the main event is it. That's everything. And then by the time we get to more mid-card stuff, it's one feud getting a bunch of notoriety and everyone else just getting kind of sprinkled into the show. Video packages, no actual mic time. That Damian Priest promo, man, that could have been so much better done in the ring with a microphone in his hand. I don't want to see this composite shot of him just staring me down. It's boring, it's uninteresting, it makes me not want to listen to anything he has to say. Because then what's the point, right? He's saying the same thing that every other guy on NXT says. The guy from WWE or Raw or SmackDown is good, but I'm good. And I want to win a championship, but I want to beat that guy up. That's it. There's no motivation here. Damian's character, I understand, is not supposed to be loud and fiery and bombastic, but that might be a problem in itself when so many of your characters are dark and brooding, and you can't get a pop out of any of them. That could have been a promo that Rhea cut. Thankfully she didn't, because it would have been just as bad coming out of her as it was coming out of Damian. That could be a promo that I could see them writing for Finn now, and Finn has so much more potential for that. So what is going to happen next week? Is Finn going to come out and cut an equally as vapid and lifeless promo as that? Let's hope not. Like I said, so far, Raw, 3 out of 10. NXT, 5 out of 10. The last weekly that we're going to cover today. AEW Dynamite, May 20th. This is emanating out of Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. This show was substantially better. I think that the weeklies for AEW Dynamite have been so much stronger the last couple months. So let's get straight into it. Opening segment with the Inner Circle was a lot of fun. I love Ortiz and Santana. I love Santana grabbing the interview person's tie clip and saying, "This looks like it's valuable," just yelling and screaming. A lot of stuff on the card here tonight, so let's move straight into it. AEW World Champion Jon Moxley versus 10 of the Dark Order. Brody Lee comes out, big talking segment. He's talking about how he's not a god, he's just a man. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, but he knows how important it is to beat Moxley, not just to satisfy himself, but to satisfy his followers of the Dark Order. We hear Jericho yelling in the crowd the entire time, which I loved. Called him trash. Yelled, "You stole the belt." A lot of really cool, weird lines from the Exalted One. He calls 10 a high night. Moxley comes out and beats this guy down. This is an elevated squash match, if you could call it that. 10 gets offense in, but Moxley keeps 10 out there, refuses to pin him as a way to bait the Exalted One out to give him his AEW championship back. Of course, I think it was a couple weeks back, Brody Lee stole the AEW championship to signify that he is the self-proclaimed champion, and he has not given the actual championship belt back to Moxley. Moxley hits a dirty deed, and then he hits a pile driver, and then he hits a paradigm shift, which is like a super dirty deed. Brody Lee comes out, says that he's not going to give him the belt back, and that sometimes you have to make sacrifices, saying that 10 is going to be a sacrifice. And then we see Moxley keep his promise to Brody Lee that if he didn't come out, he was going to break 10's arm. And he just breaks his arm. Badass promo work by both of them, and Moxley comes out of this looking like the company's savior. He's looking like the baddest dude in the room. Really cool segment here. Then we get MJF versus Marco Stunt. Pretty up and down enhancement match for MJF. Marco looked good in this match. He actually got a lot of offense in, but of course MJF is the winner here. MJF is yelling stuff for Shivani to say. Shivani yells back, "I'm not saying that, you loudmouth brat." Best segment on the show. Arn Anderson versus Jake Roberts. Oh boy. What a great face-off. We don't get face-offs like this anymore. I think Arn Anderson had the perfect line for this about halfway through his part. He said, "If we told someone a pissant could pull a freight train, they'd hook it up. We're what you call credible." Jake, the perfect heel. Arn, the perfect mentor / face. Jake's saying all this mess. He's talking all this shit. You know, people have dreams. People have nightmares. But we all know those aren't real. But Lance Archer is real. Talks about Cody sacrificing Dustin a couple weeks ago. Arn exclaims, "You almost made me believe you." Arn recognizes the dream match that would have come out of Jake Roberts versus Arn Anderson. He comments that the snake in the bag is the distraction, but you, Jake Roberts, you're what people have to worry about. Jake then immediately starts trying to challenge Arn Anderson to a fight. They talk about Mike Tyson a little bit, which ended up being a non-factor during the pay-per-view. Then Arn comes back with the heat. He says Cody doesn't want to win that championship because he's Dustin's son, because he's Dusty's son, or because he's Dustin's brother. He doesn't want the perks of the title either. He's one of the leaders of this company and of this industry, and he wants to know he still has what it takes to lead this promotion. Then Arn hits the line of the night. "You still doing DDP yoga?" Jake throws the table to the side, tries to run into him. They need like 8 refs to pull him apart. Jake throws him a soft crotch chop to end the segment. This is 10 out of 10. Jake has made a full career resurgence as far as contributing to the wrestling community. He's done so much in his career, and to know he's still putting out like career best work with these promos is truly amazing. I wasn't sure how the partnership was going to go between him and Lance, and I guess it doesn't really matter if Lance could take care of himself, because Jake provides so much credibility to what Lance is trying to put out there. He makes him feel like a threat. It feels like Jake Roberts is the only person in Lance Archer's mind, and he communicates that savagery so well. This was great, top to bottom. We then get another Art House promo video by Darby Allin. I liked it. It's a bunch of people playing around poker table. He's winning. He goes all in. He climbs a ladder. He sets the ladder on fire. Cool stuff. We then get a Pac promo promoting the Cassidy-Ray Phoenix match that we're about to get. I love Orange Cassidy. Such a good character. The match itself was pretty okay. Orange gets his gimmicky stuff in. Ray gets all his flips and his nonsense in. Ray kicks Orange Cassidy into the cameraman. Beautiful. Beautiful looking spot. Cassidy hits the Super Tornado DDT. Then Cassidy hits the diving DDT. Then Ray hits the springboard powerbomb off the top. Move after move with these guys. Perfect stuff. Cassidy reverses the Muscle Buster into a near fall. You're getting it all with Orange Cassidy. He works his gimmick, but the guy can work in the ring with the best of them. Kip Sabian comes out, and the whole thing turns into a all-out brawl leading up to the Casino Royale match. SCU comes out. Colt Cabana comes out. Best Friends come out to support Cassidy. We see a really nasty fall for Ray Phoenix here. He tries to do a springboard backflip off of the top rope. Lands straight down onto the mat. He might have fractured his tailbone. He is out for a considerable amount of time. It was a nasty looking injury. Hope for the best. Overall, though, segment was great. Match was good. No complaints here. Next up, the women's tag match. This women's tag was pretty good. I definitely like the parts more than the sum. We got faces, Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander working Britt Baker and Nyla Rose, the native beast. It was nice to see how distinct these four women are. I love Statlander and Britt Baker. Chris Statlander is one of my favorite women in wrestling right now. I think her gimmick's good. I think she works well. I think her whole look is really good. Unfortunately, we got an injury here as well. We have a possible ACL tear on Britt Baker after a corner spot where Hikaru and Chris threw Nyla right onto Britt's leg. Nyla thankfully caught this pretty fast and helped Britt out of the ring. We also saw a doctor checking up on her, and it looked very, very, very legit. You could see Britt, crawling out of the ring after that. They didn't put any extra attention to it, so this is very unfortunate. She could be out for a really long time, and this is also, as the Wrestling Observer pointed out, this could affect her actual profession as well, as she is an actual dentist. So we're wishing her the best. After the match, Nyla goes for a table. She's trying to put Hikaru Shida through that with a beast bomb. Hikaru reverses it for the superplex through the table. She's standing tall going into the pay-per-view. Is this an omen, or is it a sign of things to come? I like Hikaru Shida. I would have given this big title match, personally, to Chris Statlander, because I'm a fan of hers, but Hikaru Shida is a great pick if you're thinking of putting the belt on her after Nyla. We get a quick segment with Mox, talking about this whole disagreement with Brody being just that. It's a bit of a disagreement. Move your car. I don't want to move my car. Give me my belt back. I don't want to give you your belt back. You're just seeing things different ways. Good segment, short and sweet. Alex Marvez, he was great all night. We then get a quick segment of Sean Spears news. He basically sets himself up a match for Double or Nothing, bringing up a lot of old shit about Dustin as he calls him out for this match, talking about how he's retired. We then see that the match is made official, as Sean intelligently points out, if you say it on the TV show, it has to happen. So a nice little slice of inside baseball for us there. We then move on to our main event of the evening. It was a basic setup for our main event match at Double or Nothing, the Stadium Stampede. This match was Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. Really good match here. Really good. Matt is just looking amazing for his age. He's well into his 40s, and his physique is right on par with where it was 15 years ago. He's selling well for Sammy. Sammy's letting him throw him around. Sammy's just bumping like a boss, making all these amazing faces. You see Matt press him up against the turnbuckle, and he's just, or the post, the ring post, and he's just contorting his face and all this pain and agony. Sammy dodges a twisted fade with a handstand and gets a few in on Matt. I love that counter because it could also work for a cutter counter, like kind of an RKO thing. Sammy counters Hardy's Irish whips. He's countering a bunch of stuff, but Matt's still getting the brunt of the offense in. And that's important because both guys are working for each other. Sammy lands out of his shooting star press attempt. Hardy hits the twist of fate. Kick out at 2. Matt takes Sammy's shoe off and bites it. Springboard cutter for Sammy off the top rope. And then we see Sammy go back up for the shooting star press. Matt puts the knees up, hits another twist of fate, gets the 3 count. Big old brawl between our old elite boys in the inner circle. And this is to communicate to us, not only is Hangman Page back for the Stadium Stampede, but the Young Bucks as well. And we end this show with the Young Bucks standing tall with Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega. Adam Page walking off. He doesn't want anything to do with these losers. And that's our fade to black. Obviously I enjoyed this show a lot more than the other two. It had its hits and misses. I thought that the women's match could have been a little more concise, which it ended up being a little shorter than it probably was going to with the injury to Britt Baker. And some of the other matches had a little less going on than they could have. Orange Cassidy, Rey Fenix was good, but not great. MJF versus Marco Stunt was good, but not great. I think the strongest match for me was Jon Moxley versus 10. That's a great character. Great stakes were set up for the pay-per-view. You really feel that main event energy coming from Brody Lee as Brody and Jon Moxley as Jon Moxley. I think these gimmicks elevate these guys to caliber that they weren't at with the WWE. These promos, this work is working really well with them. Beautiful setup going into Double or Nothing. This is a really good go-home show. I give AEW this week an 8 out of 10. I thought some parts could have been more concise, but everything on these AEW shows is elevated. They're working with a grander set. They're working with more material. They're working with a deeper roster than it appears WWE is allowing themselves to work through. And more importantly, there's an energy that is lacking on those WWE broadcasts, not just because of a lack of audience. We have the wrestlers in the crowd in AEW, and there's no one in the crowd for WWE, but there's a better energy in how the promos are getting executed and how the characters are being conveyed to us. That's it for the show today. I will be doing a second recording very soon, sharing my quick thoughts about Double or Nothing 2020. For now, though, that's all the time that I have. But for now, my name is Zachary Mahabir. Thank you so much for tuning into the House 2.0. Thank you, and have a great day.